It's time to talk about the psychology of money. Finances can cause conflict in a variety of relationships, and especially for couples. So, how can couples minimize their money problems? Joining me for a panel discussion on this topic are Dr. Art Markman, Professor of Psychology at the University of Texas at Austin and the Executive Director of the IC² Institute, Dr. Kristy Archuleta, Associate Professor at the University of Georgia and the Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Financial Therapy, and Dr. Brad Klontz, a Certified Financial Planner Practitioner in Boulder, Colorado, and a Professor of Financial Psychology at Creighton University. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Okay, so money and couples, I know we could probably talk for about 6 hours on this, but we won't. What are the big issues for couples and money? Where do they need to start?
Yeah, so one of the things I was just going to preface this whole conversation with is that money is one of the top things that couples have arguments about. And not only is it one of the top things that they argue about, it's one of the most intensely fought about issues. And part of that is because it's such an emotionally charged issue.
Why? That's my question. Why?
Well, money is at the root of everything we're trying to accomplish in our lives. That is, being able to afford the home of your dreams, being able to raise a family, saving for the future. So it's at the root of that, and there are so many different ways that we can go astray in the way that we use our money. We can spend too much on one thing rather than another. We can not save. Plus, with couples in particular, they come from very different backgrounds, which means that they have very different expectations. And often, because we're uncomfortable talking about money, we don't actually have the explicit conversations that we need to have in order to really set appropriate expectations about how the future is going to go.
Ooh, it's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So couples come to the relationship with totally different money scripts in the research that we've done. Beliefs around money, like what it means, how we're supposed to use it. And so when I'm working with couples in conflict around money, there's always some issue they're bringing them in. It's what are we spending on our kids or retirement or whatever the issue is. And the conversation I encourage them to have is the one that they should have had maybe on the third date, second date, I don't know, which is like, real like, what was it like for you growing up around money? What was it like for your parents? What are your biggest financial fears? What are your financial goals? And really understanding your partner, because people don't talk about money. People have very little insight into their own relationship with money to begin with. And to really have that opportunity, it helps people really understand their own relationship with money just by talking about it. And then when you understand that your partner is, for example, coming from poverty and is really afraid of being broke, and in your mind, coming from middle class, you might be like, well, that might not even cross your mind. But knowing that they have this deep-seated fear around money really puts these behaviors in perspective, and it can make you feel some compassion, and it can help you move towards negotiating a solution, which is the ultimate goal. Ultimately, you need to get a solution that you both feel good about to move forward.
Some sort of reconciliation on how you're going to handle money in the relationship as a couple.
Yeah, and one of the places where this plays out has to do with risk. So there's a lot of work by Elke Weber and her colleagues on the different types of risks that people are willing to tolerate in their lives. And what's interesting is it's really domain specific. And so someone might be a social risk taker. They might be the first one up to give a talk in front of a group. Or they might be a physical risk taker. They might go bungee jumping or hurtling down a mountain on a mountain bike. But that doesn't predict what their financial risk-taking ability is going to be. And often you don't see that willingness to take financial risks until you're very close to somebody. And so you may discover that your partner is a very different financial risk profile than you do, and discover that very late in the game when your finances are already commingled.
Yeah, and all of this plays into how do my partner and I interact together around money. And how we interact and how we manage money has a significant impact on our relationship quality and our financial satisfaction. And so it's very rarely necessary. Sometimes we hear, hey, I can't communicate with my partner or my spouse about money. Well, learning what their story is and understanding what their story is the first step. And that helps to create this bridge of trust and this vulnerability piece where people are really willing to share and talk about, all right, now that we understand each other, we can start interacting differently when we talk about money, which hopefully reduces that conflict.
another problem is that money is fundamentally about transactions. And the reason that that's problematic is because there are often inequities in a relationship in the amount of money that one partner or another is making. And so if one partner has a job that pays more than the other, but the finances are going to be mingled in some way, then that doesn't mean that there necessarily has to be a transaction that enables the partner who makes less money to get access to more of that money. And so you have this very strange situation in which this thing that is designed for transactions inside the couple doesn't necessarily need to signal that there's a transaction taking place.
Absolutely, and that unbalanced situation that often occurs can be a source of conflict and people feeling guilty, perhaps, that they're not contributing enough, etc. And you'll hear all sorts of things out there around how people are supposed to do money and accounts, and you're supposed to have them separate, supposed to have them together. In our experience, it really doesn't matter. Like those details don't matter. What matters is that people feel like they're being heard, they're being understood. What's important to them is being valued. And then in terms of how you actually structure it is actually less important.
What we do know is that when couples know about what is happening with one another, that really is important. So some couples may say, yes, pooling is really important so that we know what's happening with one another. Others, that might not work at all, but having an idea what the other person is doing with their money is very, very key. That transparency is really key.
And one of the benefits to being in a relationship around money is you tend to have better financial health. And I think one of the reasons is you have somebody who sits there, like my wife would be, say, you sure you really need that? Yeah. To try to make you think through it a little bit. And so you can balance each other out. So there's the opportunity.
Yeah, so money is not the movie theater. Silence is not golden.
Right.
I mean, that's because there's a natural, I guess, American culture. I come back to that many times in these kind of conversations that we just don't talk about it. And so if you're not talking about it, what are you doing? You're making assumptions, right? Mm-hmm. You're coming at it from a totally different place. No wonder we mess this up and we have so much confusion. So yeah, talking and here we are with 3 people that deal with psychology all the time. Listening, right?
Yeah. And part of that is putting yourself out there to be vulnerable. And that is really, really hard to do with money.
Excellent. Great insights. Art, Kristy, Brad, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.